guys, it looks like this Guzman Madero was not the best port designer ever. And the port that he designed over here could only be used for 25 years. Imagine, we spent a hell of a lot of money for a port that could only be used for 2 decades and a half. What happened is that after the port was inaugurated, we realized that the commerce was still increasing, the ships were becoming bigger, so soon enough that port will be too small. Enlarging it was very expensive and very difficult, so we decided to start building another port, which is the one that we still use nowadays as a commercial port and the cruise ship terminal. When that new port was finished, we left behind Madero's port and we started using the new one. This was in the year 1925, right? So from that moment on, Madero's port remained abandoned until the year 1996. At that time, we had one of the biggest renovation projects in Buenos Aires, which decided to turn that, at that moment, abandoned port into what today is one of the most important gastronomic and residential areas that we have in Buenos Aires. And all this was done trying to preserve the way in which the port looked like originally. That's why in a moment, as we get over there, we will be able to see the newest neighborhood in Buenos Aires, because as such dates to the 1996, but still looks like an old port. It was a complete makeover that took place over there. In just a little bit, then we will be entering the neighborhood of Puerto Madero. To the right, guys, we will go through the ferry terminal of Colonia Express. This is one of the ferry companies that connect Buenos Aires City with Colonia in Uruguay. There is another ferry company which is Buquebus, which is perhaps bigger and better known than this one, that also connects Buenos Aires with either Colonia or Montevideo. The trip to Colonia can be done in a day. It takes about an hour to get there, and it's a nice little charming town in Uruguay that was declared a World Heritage by the UNESCO because it was an area of conflict between Spain and Portugal. And when you get over there, you see the historical center of Colonia pretty well preserved, and you can see the influence of the Spanish and the Portuguese conquerors in the area. Very good, guys. So we are entering the neighborhood of Puerto Madero now. This neighborhood is divided in two by the canal that in a moment you will see to the left. On the other side of the canal we have the old Puerto Madero, and this area where we are now, it's the new Puerto Madero. Old because when this was a port, most of the buildings were on the other side. Those brick buildings that you see over there and that we will see better in a moment were originally the warehouses where were kept the products that will be imported or exported. On this side of the neighborhood there was barely nothing, so most of what we have over here are completely new buildings, right? That's why we say old and new. Those old warehouses were reconverted into mostly restaurants on the ground floor, and then on the top floor we might have some condos, offices, etc. On this side, most of the buildings that we see are condos or offices. So we can see that the old part, it's essentially gastronomic, and this is mainly business and residential. We do have condos, offices and restaurants on both sides of Puerto Madero, but we can say that it's primarily gastronomic there and residential and business over here.
Did they have to fill in the land to put these buildings up?
No, these lands were already filled in. They were filled in when we made the port, right? So it wasn't necessary. It wasn't necessary. But this is not natural, right? These are filled in lands, but the thing is that they were filled in before the neighborhood.
You get earthquakes here?
Sorry? No. We don't have hurricanes, we don't have tornadoes, earthquakes, or nothing. We are lucky enough that we don't have natural disasters. We take care of making the disasters ourselves, right? We have political disasters. We don't need help from the nature.
Hey, listen, we've got them all now.
You are pretty busy at home.
Yes.
Luckily, not here in Buenos Aires. In other parts of Argentina, we might have some. It is not so frequent that we have, but in places like Mendoza, San Juan, etc., which are by the Andes, right?
Yes.
Right over there, they have some movement. Not as much as it is in Chile, which is closer to the fault, right? Right over here on the other side of the Andes, it shakes from time to time, but it's not a big deal. But right over here in Buenos Aires, no. A while ago, I think it was, I don't know, a few years ago, there was this big earthquake in Chile.
Yes.
Right over here, some people say that they felt it and they evacuated a few buildings. But it's because we don't have earthquakes over here, so we have the slightest movement and everyone is panicking, whereas anywhere else in the world it will be tickling them, you know. But no, we don't have. Here in Buenos Aires, we don't have earthquakes or any other natural disasters.
In San Francisco, much of the land around, it was a port too,
Yes.
much of the land around the edges of San Francisco on the bay have been filled in for almost 200 years, 150 years or more. And now they're building very big skyscrapers. And one of the buildings, they didn't put the piles down far enough, and the building is tipping and sinking. And it's like 50 stories, and you paid $2-3 million for this apartment.
No!
It's true. It's true.
Mamma mia.
Yeah.
Look at these buildings, they are
That's
tall.
why I asked you when I saw all those big buildings.
Yes,
that's what I thought of it.
Yeah, there is a lot of people that ask the same question.
Really?
We don't even start thinking about it because we don't have that problem. But in places where there are normally earthquakes, it's one of the first things that you think about. Guys, take a look at this building that we have to the right. This used to be originally a silo where the grains were stored, and then it has been completely renovated clearly, and it became a hotel. Today is the Faena Hotel. The renovation was in charge of Philip Stark.
Oh.
And guys,
We're just down here.
as we cross the street, to the right, you will find the monument to Juan Manuel Fangio. Juan Manuel Fangio was a Formula 1 racer. He was 5 times world champion in this racing category. And as we cross the street, you will see it to the right.
It's a low monument. Look at this. It's just down the street. Yeah, it's pretty to come. Oh, how pretty. You see it? Oh, no.
Car racing is very popular over here in Argentina. The most popular sport by far, of course, it's football or soccer, right? There is no competition against it. But it is also very, very popular car racing. People follow it a lot.
Yeah, but you know, in the U.S., sometimes all the monuments are up on big high
Pedestals or whatever.
Yeah, so it's different to see a monument on the ground.
It's similar. It's a similar thing to what happens right over here. Most of the monuments are pedestals to make them more important or whatever. So, but it's something that I haven't paid attention to the fact that.
Yeah. No, when we see something like that on the ground, sometimes it's just a work of art, not a monument.
Exactly.
Just a work of art.
Guys, I will ask you to start paying attention to the right. In just a moment, you will be able to find a white pedestrian bridge, which is what we know as the Ladies' Bridge or Calatrava Bridge. It was designed by a Spanish architect and engineer called Santiago Calatrava, who says the bridge represents a couple dancing tango. And once again, don't blame it on me, I'm just repeating what Calatrava said. You know, I find it hard to see a couple dancing tango there. It's a real challenge to my imagination that goes as far as seeing there an harp, or if I want to go wild, the open mouth of an alligator. But don't ask me for more than that, right? But well, this man says that it's a couple dancing tango and we will have to believe him. Although, once I had a couple from Seville in Spain, you know, a couple of tourists over here, and they told me, because I was feeling pretty bad about myself and my lack of artistic imagination, you know, and they said, Romina, you know what? As in Seville, we have a bridge that looks alike, also designed by this good man Calatrava, but he told us that it was a couple dancing flamenco. I don't know if they said that to make me feel better or what. I took their word for it, stop blaming myself and my lack of artistic imagination, and that's it. It's a very nice bridge, however, it can turn and stands parallel to the docks in case to allow the vessels to use the canal. Yes, it doesn't happen very often, because it's not very often that the vessels use this part of the canal, but in case it's needed, it can turn and stay parallel to the coast. And before the bridge, we see an old Navy ship that was used as a school ship for those who wanted to join the Navy. Nowadays it's kept as a floating museum. If we visit it, we'll see how the cadets used to live during their instruction trips, mementos from the trips of the vessel around the world, etc. To the left, the building that we find belongs to the Catholic University of Argentina, also known as UCA. This is a private university and it's among the most expensive ones that we have here in Argentina. As I mentioned before, we have in our country a public and a private education system. The public is free of charge and the private one, well, we have to pay. How much we pay at the university will obviously depend on what we want to study and where we want to do it, but we have to think of an average price that goes around 150 to 1,000 US dollars a month. That compared to what it costs to study in other parts of the world sounds fairly acceptable, right? But what we have to keep in mind is that here we don't have loans from the bank, university or bank to pay for our studies. So whatever we pay has to come either from our savings or from our salary. And the average salary in Argentina is in the order of the 900 to 1,000 US dollars a month. So as you can imagine, for someone with an average income, it can be pretty challenging paying a private university. Although we have, on the other hand, the public one where the education is free of charge. So the education is affordable for everyone.
Totally free. I mean,
totally free. You just have to pay for the books, the materials that you need to study, but you don't have to pay absolutely anything to the university for your studies. It's completely free, from kindergarten to the university.
What about medical care here? Is that
It
free?
is the same. We have a public system, which is free, public hospitals. Anyone that is Argentinian or a visitor or something legal or illegal immigrant, that is anybody who is in our territory can go to a public hospital and will be taken care of without being in the need of paying anything for it. What happened? Public hospitals are, because of this, completely overcrowded, right? They don't have perhaps the budget that they would need, even though the doctors are excellent. Perhaps, I don't know, if you have to spend a few days in hospital, you will have to share your room with someone else, that's for sure. Most likely you will even have to take the sheets or anything that is needed for the bed, because they have a low budget. That's the reason because of which those that can afford pay a private health insurance. Sometimes they just get the health insurance from their work. You know, when you're working, part of the taxes that are paid go for the health insurance, and in some others, if they are not happy with it, they pay a little bit more and they choose the health insurance that they want. However, we have certain hospitals specialized in certain areas which are the best that you can get here in Argentina or even in Latin America. For example, we have children's hospitals specialized in infectious diseases, specialized in burns or in the eyes. Those are very, very good. So if you have a problem in any of these areas, especially children, First, you will go to your private health insurance because it's more convenient, it's easier to get an appointment with a doctor, etc. Now, if the problem is really big, then you go to the public hospital, no matter the inconvenience that you have over there, because you can be sure that there will be seen by the best specialists in the country. So they are good, but they are overcrowded. Okay, guys, again, going back to the neighborhood, as I mentioned before, this is an important gastronomic area. What you'll find the most, of course, will be steakhouses, because, well, this is Buenos Aires, the beef is the star in our menu. But let's not forget our Italian roots, right? And then over here we will find a good deal of excellent Italian restaurants as well. We'll also be able to find places where we can come for Chinese, Japanese, Peruvian food. We'll even be able to find Burger King and McDonald's. Not that you need to come here for a burger, clearly, but that gives us an idea of the wide range of options that we have if we want to come here for lunch or dinner. Take a look to the right, guys, and you will notice the old yellow trains that we still have in the neighborhood. Time ago they were used to move the cargo from the ships, and nowadays, well, they have just been renovated and left to decorate the neighborhood. Remember that the idea was that this area will still preserve its port aspect. Guys, in the corner to the right, you will find the ferry terminal of Buenos. This is the other ferry company that connects Buenos Aires City with either Colonia or Montevideo in Uruguay. And if you take a look to the right of Buenos, over there you will find these brick buildings, this old warehouse that hasn't been renovated yet. So it gives us an idea of how the entire neighborhood looked like before the 1990s renovation. It was a complete makeover, right? This area passed from being a completely run down, abandoned area and avoided by most of